Sister to sister. And we're here on this platform to share our journey.
Yes.
If you didn't get a chance to watch our intro video, you can definitely go back and look on why we decided to do this. So, but today we're here to talk about our diagnosis.
There's so many to talk about.
Yes, let's get into it. So, how did your journey?
I know with diagnosis, there's so many diagnoses.
Yeah, they are.
And some of them are, just to name a few, PCOS. Mm-hmm. You can have irregular cycles that can stop you from getting pregnant. Incompetent cervix. That's something that both of us dealt with.
Yeah.
Men can have infertility issues. So those are just some of the topics. What did you have to go through when you found out about your diagnosis?
I didn't find out, of course, until I got pregnant. So after waiting those years to get pregnant, I finally get pregnant. And I never forget, we had just come home from picking up something to eat. I ate, went to the bathroom, and I saw a sac come out.
Wow.
Literally. Wow. And screaming for Titus. We got rushed to Rex where I was being seen. Mm-hmm. And they rushed me over to Chapel Hill and found out that I had a weak cervix. And unfortunately, during that time, I lost the baby.
And that right there, just hearing that part of your story is so hard because you get so far. So how far along were you?
With baby Wooten, we called the baby Wooten. We didn't name him, but it was a boy. We named him Baby Wooten. And I was almost at 18 weeks. Wow. So I got to 17 weeks. I pushed him out at 17 weeks. And then I was right there at my 18-week period where I feel like he would have had more stuff developed and they could have done more, but you just don't know. Like, he could have been a vegetable, or something could have been wrong, and that would have been a whole different part of my journey because I don't know how I would have handled that either.
Yes.
So how did your journey start? Like, did you?
So I actually started off by having 3 different diagnoses. Okay. And it wasn't so much that something was wrong off top. Mm-hmm. My doctor noticed that, you've been married like, I don't know, it was like maybe our 6th year married. Right. And at the time, me and Kent weren't even thinking about
having,
like, there was no issue.
Oh, something was wrong. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
We just hit in the wrong month.
Yeah.
But my GYN suggested that we go to an infertility doctor. Okay. And so I'm planning to go on my lunch break or whatever, go to an infertility.
So you went by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking, like, they're just going to tell me I need to take a vitamin, or there's just a certain peak that you need to, Mm-hmm. And so we go into the doctor's office. He starts off by doing a test. Mm-hmm. I believe it's called the HSG test. Okay. Where they're just pushing fluid in your fallopian tubes to make sure that there's a flow.
Is that painful?
It was so much pressure in my bladder. I mean, it's just pushing water in it, and it's at high pressure.
How long did they have to do that for?
Until I could take it. Wow. And so he's pushing and I see his face, and he's like, "Can you take some more?" And I'm like, at that time, I'm like, do what you got to do.
So are you looking at the screen? Do you see the screen? Can you see?
So I see the screen, but I don't know what I'm looking at.
Okay.
And so he's pushing. And I'm like, finally, I can't take no more. And so he leaves out, mm-hmm. and then he comes back, and I'm like thinking to myself, okay, what is he about to tell me? Right. And he's like, "Sorry, Miss Jones, but you're not able to have kids on your own. You're going to have some type of treatment or something." Mm-mm. He said, "Your tubes are blocked." And so anything that he said after that went over my head, went under. I could not take hearing, because I wasn't prepared. Right. When you go through things, sometimes you go worst case scenario. Right. I was not prepared for my worst scenario.
No, you weren't expecting him to say those words.
Yes, those words. So that was my first diagnosis, is having blocked fallopian tubes. Wow. So that was one of them. My second one was actually fibroids.
I remember. Okay, I do remember you had to go get the surgery, right?
Yeah, I had surgery. So I had like 3 fibroids, and you can still get pregnant with fibroids. It's just that if they continue to grow, then that's when the complication goes.
So before this time, you haven't had a positive pregnancy test. There was nothing. Okay, I couldn't remember. I remember you having a surgery, but I couldn't remember if you had. Okay, go ahead.
So even before the fibroids, I got surgery to fix the issue with the fallopian tubes.
Okay, so you got that. So you had. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Why didn't I know that?
I don't know.
I didn't know you had to get surgery for the fallopian tube. The
fallopian tubes. Yes.
Okay.
So but it was a quick 1-day thing. She just like made some clippings and
then it was done.
It was fixed and done.
Okay.
And so months after, I found out I got fibroids.
Okay.
And so my fibroids were growing. They were, one was almost like a plum size, and then I had like 2 grapes, but they were growing.
Right.
And so had surgery again.
And they were on your tubes, or they were
on my uterus.
They were on your uterus. Okay.
And so, after that, we got pregnant.
Okay.
With twins. And
was that the first time? Why do I feel like you got pregnant before the twins?
No, the twins were my first pregnancy.
Okay.
And so get pregnant with the twins. And I found out I think we were 15 weeks.
Yeah.
I lose them because I have incompetent cervix. Now, that's not even genetic.
Right.
How do both of us deal with incompetent cervix?
Yeah.
So with you dealing with that, you were able to help me. So when we were trying again to get pregnant,
we did go through that together.
Yeah, you were able to walk me through, like, ask your doctor this.
Yes, things to say and how to get through that. Because after I had baby Boot and I had the incompetent cervix, it happened again.
Yeah.
With Tana.
Yeah.
And so
I remember that.
Right. We just went for a regular checkup, and the doctor was checking me just to make sure everything was good. I was going to a high risk clinic, and he was like, "You're funneling." I'm like, "What?
Y'all better fix this."
Yes. He said, "You're funneling, like it's starting to happen again." I panicked, and he was like, "We got to do emergency surgery." I said, "Wow." So I'm panicking, I'm freaking out, couldn't even enjoy the fact that that's the day we found out Tana was a girl. So we couldn't even enjoy that was it. So I get on the phone, I call mommy, and I'm like, "Ma, I got to go into emergency surgery." She's like, "What?" And I'm telling her I'm crying. Tyson hold my hand. We literally walking through the hospital.
Yeah.
So Tyson's like, "You got to get it done, Talisha." I was like, I don't want to get surgery. So, that all that to find out. I mean, they caught it really good with the twins. I didn't have to go. They did it really early on. They had with incompetent cervix, you have to get that. You have to get it sewed. Stitch. And I think they did yours different than mine.
Yeah, so I got an abdominal stitch.
Yeah,
where it goes higher up.
Right. See, they didn't do that to me. So
and mine's is permanent.
Yeah, yours is still
there's a chance that I could get pregnant again.
Lord. Okay, don't get me on here shot over here now. But so mine's was I had to go into surgery and they literally had to pull my cervix out to sew it in, and then I had to get mine's removed.
Yes.
So that was the difference with that. But do you feel like, I know you were telling me a little bit about your support during that time, because like, do you feel like you had support when you found out your diagnosis?
So actually, when leaving the doctor's office, I called everybody. You remember?
Yes.
No, my answer. But at the same time, I wasn't expecting everyone to answer, because it was like during a lunch break when I went to the doctor's visit. Right. But I just sat in my car for a minute, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And I cried. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. But now thinking and looking back,
yes,
I didn't call on the person that
you needed to call on.
I need to call on, which was God.
Right.
And so God was like, Tiffany.
Yeah.
I could have gave you your answer right then and there.
Right.
And see, this just shows you that where my relationship was. Sometimes we get these diagnoses or things happen in our life, and we forget who our Father is.
We forget who to turn to.
Yeah. And that shows you where your relationship is, because if your relationship was deep and you knew
Yeah.
what your father,
Yeah.
you know, and so I immediately realize now where I went wrong
Yeah.
with hearing that diagnosis. Like there's so many things that I could tell myself back then, like the future person.
Oh yes, I have a lot to sell to
Yes.
that little girl.
tell that past person,
Yes.
or you know, like this it's taking you somewhere.
Yeah.
Because the my relationship now is totally different from where it was
when
now.
you were going through it.
Yes.
Right.
So that just tells you I had to go through this to be at the place where he wants me to be.
God took you through all of that to get you to where you are now.
Exactly.
And I say it to myself every day in my prayer. God, thank you for putting me where I'm at today.
Yes.
Because all that I went through, I mean, that is just half of the story what I went through with baby Wooten, but it was more intense. I thank God for the support in the hospital. I lost it.
Yeah.
I lost it.
Infertility will make you lose your mind.
Depression, sitting in that bed, after I pushed this baby out, I held him, looked at him. He looked like me, by the way. I held him, precious baby, precious. I mean, literally, he threw his hand up for a couple of seconds, put his hand down. Like, I'm not gonna get emotional, but he put his hand up for a little bit, and then I'm looking like, okay, y'all gonna, you know. And I think I just passed him over to somebody. I don't even remember.
Passed him to me.
I passed him to Auntie. I passed him over to Auntie.
I was toe up.
Yeah, I think I put the blanket over the baby. Like I didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
I was. That was the weirdest space I've ever been. But God said, I can get you through this.
Yeah.
At that time, no, I was not in that space.
Yeah, it has you in a different space.
Yeah,
definitely. And so that's when the support needs. That's when you need to have that village and have that support with different diagnoses. I know one thing that I learned, and I hope this helps you guys, is get a second opinion.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because when I left the doctor's office, all I heard was, "You can't have kids."
Yeah.
And so going back to the drawing board after speaking with God, like, God, you told me that this was a part of the plan.
And we're sticking to the promise of
and
God.
I'm remembering what you said to me.
Right.
You said this was going to come forth. And so I went back to the drawing board, went to a different doctor, and I got a whole different, you know, view on it. Hey, yeah, this is fixable.
Right.
Yeah, we can do this. We can do this. And I'm so grateful for God get me through these different surgeries.
Absolutely.
Because these weren't minor surgeries, but I thank God for sending me, and it may take a third doctor. You have to find a doctor that has your best interest because they will look at you as, you know, you another number.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to give you this diagnosis and
do your research.
I'm going to the next person.
Yes.
I remember when me and Kent, because I've had a couple of miscarriages. I remember our second it may have been our first miscarriage. Maybe our second. It had to be our second. After we had the twins, we had a second miscarriage. And I remember the nurse, like, it's going to be okay. You could try again. And and, you know, all that. And then she puts us in a little waiting room to wait because we had to get some tests done. Yeah. And then I hear her bringing another couple in, and she's just giddy. And I'm like, she was just sad with me. How's she able to change?
Exactly.
And so she was able to do that because that's her job.
Right.
So you could tell when someone has passion.
Yeah.
You know, the third doctor, I loved him so much. He was able to walk me through. He actually told me to join a group, a support group.
Okay.
And so that just showed me, you know, he's dealt with this a lot.
Right.
But he also understands.
Right.
Because I'm just not a number. I was able to call him. He had a after hours number.
Wow. That's a good doctor.
And you don't get that from many doctors.
You have to travel to get to him?
And I did. I did have to travel. I actually was recommend. He was in Winston-Salem and Greensboro.
Okay, I remember you saying Greensboro.
We did have to travel, but, you know, God made a way where we were able to travel back and forth.
Right.
And then I got pregnant.
Yeah. So you had one. So after the twins, that was your only miscarriage?
No, after the twins, I had another miscarriage.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. So,
And I was only like, I think I was maybe 3 weeks when I missed.
Yeah.
And that's when we start doing the research. And they stitched me up right away.
Yeah.
So the problem no longer was that I could get pregnant.
Now
it
you
was
can hold the baby.
How can
That
I
was
hold
me.
this baby?
Yeah.
During
and they did mine earlier with the twins, but of course, because it was more pressure. So they did, I want to say they stitched me up between 14 and 15 weeks because I will always start funneling between 16 and 17 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was just, going through the process with finding out your diagnosis, I think is important.
Yes.
I thank God I did have the support going through the first time finding out. I had to go through my diagnosis, finding out what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I didn't know. I'm carrying this baby. I'm like, okay. I was leaking a couple of days, and I just didn't know. But I had a doctor's appointment literally 2 days later. I already had a doctor's appointment on the calendar to see my doctor.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure she would have saw what was going on, but I just didn't make it to that time frame.
Yeah.
So just being in the hospital, I had, all family came. Church was there.
Yeah.
Family was there.
Yeah, because I know they were going to kick us out because it was so many people that came and
but
support.
That was touching. I like that part, even though I was out of it. They prayed. I don't even know what they said.
Who was there either?
Yeah,
I
don't know.
Tell you.
Yeah, I don't even know who was there because I was just like, really, like, God, why? I mean,
and when you went through that, like whatever I was feeling was put aside.
Yeah,
because you being in that place, and I'm big sis.
Yeah.
I just hated to see you like that. I mean, it was just like the color just went out of you. I knew Titus, he was there beside you, but he
that's the first time I seen Titus cry.
Yeah.
So it got me more emotional. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So,
and for you to get that far, I'm like, okay, Tiffany, it's time to jump in as big sister.
You did the same thing with Tana too.
Yes.
You were there. You just talking about some coach. You're gonna get this C-section. I was not. I did not. She whispered in my ear, "You going?" Kept put. That's a whole. We'll get to Tana's story later, but pushing Tana out and trying to get, and then having that support.
Yeah, and you think like, Tiffany, how are you able to help your sister and you going through?
Right.
You can't even get pregnant. They don't even know your diagnosis, but it's just a different love.
Yeah.
And it kicked in, and I put my emotions aside,
right.
And so I think that's where we started to connect, because we had a disconnect because I couldn't get pregnant, and you got pregnant.
Right.
And then we kind of went our separate journeys. I dealt with my diagnosis. You dealt with your diagnosis. And
we kind of kept it separate. And then I dealt, and we just had our husbands there to encourage and support in our relationship with God. I think after losing baby Wooten, my faith went up another level. I'm like, okay, God, no, I know what you said. And I know, and I know what I prayed for.
Yes.
And I kind of, after losing baby Wooten, I had another miscarriage. We tried too soon. I had another miscarriage. I remember going to the doctor to get the ultrasound for that particular baby, and I wasn't far along. Like you said, you was like 3 weeks with the one. I probably was like 2 to 3, but she was like, okay, so you're trying too soon, give your body time to heal. I was like, no, I need to have this baby.
It's the promise.
This the promise.
The promise got to come to pass.
Right. So I just my relationship went a whole nother level. I think even that time we went to, I think it was around Mother's Day.
Yes, I remember Mother's Day.
And that was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard. I think it was a couple weeks after losing that baby, and I was like, I ain't going to church.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, and we were trying to tell you to stay home.
Yeah, and I said no. God said, nope. And I start praying different after baby Wooten. I wasn't praying the same. I think after losing, before I had a daycare. So I was getting myself prepared and taking myself out of the situation and letting God really take over. Because after that changed everything. Yeah. It really did. It really did.
Yeah. I think even with reading scriptures, we hear scriptures Sunday morning and that's it.
Yeah.
And I kind of treated my relation with God like a chore. Just, I went to church. But going through this test.
You needed them. And
When I went through this test, it was I had a different posture for God.
Absolutely.
It was a different calling.
Yeah.
The scriptures, like, we opened the book. I had books spreaded out.
Right. I also feel like I relied on people too much for what I wanted from God. And that was really, you couldn't tell me nothing now. We couldn't do that now.
Yeah.
But I relied on different ministries in the church. I relied on the pastor. I relied on those altar calls. All that I relied on to pull me through. But then when it happened, it's like, wait a minute. I can't go to nobody else.
Yeah.
I literally had, so I feel like I personally wasn't prepared for that to happen, but God had to show me, I'm Alpha and the Omega. I'm the beginning. What are you relying on them for? Are you preaching? Girl, don't get me started. But what do you know?
Yes.
So I felt like I was more prepared when I went through the season of, I had a hard time conceiving the second time. I found out I had PCOS.
Yes.
And my cycle was off. Like, my cycle ain't never what? I had the calendar. You know how you had a little app on your phone, and you checking like, I'm ovulating this week and this and that.
Get ready.
I'd be like, Titus, I'm ovulating. He was like, okay. But just to keep, all those try to keep track of everything, our cycle and stuff like that. And I felt like my faith was so much greater after going through baby woo and going through that one miscarriage. And then I was like, okay, God, we want to have another baby. Time just start going by. All right, God. And he's like, don't you forget what I brought you through before.
Don't forget the first test that you passed.
Don't forget the promise.
Yes.
So I just feel like it just strengthened my relationship. Everything up until now has strengthened my relationship. I'm so grateful for where I'm at. I'm thankful for the test. I'm thankful for what God brought us through together. Because even then, we'll tell this story, but even how I had that time I had to call you.
Yeah.
We hadn't gotten pregnant with KJ yet. So even having that time I had to call you, God put me on. He was like, okay, you're not done.
Yeah. And it's funny when you called me because, and like we said, we'll go in detail.
Right.
When you called me, I had just prayed, God, send me help.
Yeah.
Because this test is too much.
Yeah.
I can't do it no more.
Right.
Like, I'm going to church, I'm reading my word, but I need help.
Yeah.
And there's times where you're gonna need help. That's I said, God, I can't do this alone. Yeah. And immediately,
that was not, but God, I'm telling you.
You called me, you said, Tiff, I don't know where you at with having this.
Because we hadn't talked.
We hadn't talked for a while.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we talked.
We talked. Don't get it. Yeah. We were talking.
We love each other.
We love each other. But we weren't talking about the situation. Yeah. I know it was still sensitive for you. Yeah.
And so when you called me and you was like, hey, I don't know where you and Kent are doing as far as like trying again or whatever, but I need to walk you through this. And I'm like, thank God you were quick. And I mean, I couldn't even say nothing. Y'all let you talk because I was bawling, crying. I'm like, God has my best interest. He loves me.
Yeah.
He loves me. So
that was a place. We'll dive into that story later because that one blew me up. Because God definitely prepared me for that one. Because I kept saying, no, she good. God said,
because I'm the strong one.
Yes, always.
I'm
your pain tolerance is higher than mine. Everything,
Yeah.
And I think when people look at us, I don't know, I think sometimes they think I'm the oldest sister.
Yeah, they think you're the oldest because her mouth.
that part. But I feel like, that whole time God was saying, I'm give a tidbit of the story. We had moved out far. To Timbuktu, literally.
Yes.
I was still working in Nightdale, and I had about a 45-minute to an hour drive to get home. And during that time, I was just in a different place in my life. I didn't have the radio on. Just me and God, 45 to out. This ain't the only time I'm talking to God, but this is the time I want to give space to him.
Yes.
Kept saying, check on your sister. Like, she good. I'm sending her scriptures. I was sending her Pinterest stuff. I'm sending her scriptures. I think she good. She ain't mentioned nothing. Mm-hmm. No, check on your sister. She needs you. Mm-hmm. And that I cried. Literally, I was in a car sobbing, crying. And I never forget, I waited for Titus to get home and I told Titus, I said, Titus, I got to call Tiffany. He said, why? And I said, I got to help her. Mm-hmm. He was like, looking at me like sideways, like, you got to help her. I was like, I think I need to help her.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, and I keep saying, I don't know what it is. It was the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Let's just be blunt. It was the Holy Spirit. Because God has a way of taking you out of your comfort zone, just like us doing this.
Yes.
Taking you out of your things that you don't want to do. That's when you know it's God.
Yeah.
Because I did not saying I didn't want to call you. I just didn't want to get into that personal. I didn't want to get into that space with you. I know it was sensitive.
Yeah.
And I know I done had Tana. I done double had the twins.
And then, because you got pregnant twice before me.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's the older sister. So I'm thinking like, God, when you gonna bless my sister? And he like, go to her. Stop over here talking to me about it.
Yeah.
She don't know that you're over here talking to me about it.
Yeah.
I'm telling her I'm praying for her. I'm sending her scriptures, but she needs you.
Yeah.
And then that story gets a little emotional.
Yeah.
And
to make a long story short, we were healed from our diagnosis.
Yes, we were. Thank God.
We were healed from our diagnosis. So we just want to keep you uplifted.
Yes.
Get those second opinions.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Do your research.
There's
join
so
those
many
support groups as well.
Support groups are very important. Yeah. Because when you're joining that support group, you can relate. Y'all are able to relate with the different diagnoses. With me having the incompetent cervix, that doctor from Greensboro actually told me about a support group.
Okay.
And it was just a whole bunch of women up there talking about, how they, were able to find out. And we were just able to relate and chit chat about the diagnosis.
And I think I found mine on Facebook. I joined a group. Actually, I'm still part of the group, and I try to leave encouraging words, even though I've been through it.
Yes.
But try to leave encourage, like, sis, I know you went through that, and it's heartbreaking, and you want to have that promise, that rainbow baby, and that promise baby. So I go up there and to encourage them. I'm still part of the group, but that's the group I joined on.
Because
Facebook.
you want to share your story, so you let people know that there is a happy ending to this.
Yes.
You may not be able to have the baby naturally, or you might have to use IVF or adoption.
Yeah.
You don't know how God wants to use you.
Yeah.
So,
This was good. Yeah.
Diagnosis.
Learned a lot.
Diagnosis. So, definitely follow us for our next episode. We want you to join us on YouTube.
Yes, YouTube, Instagram,
Facebook.
We're on Facebook. Yes.
Join us on our YouTube channel, Sister to Sister _ Chit Chat, for episode number 3, Emotional Triggers, April 21st, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So remember, sis, this journey may be tough, but so are you. Until next time, keep believing.